Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com. You can find cool stuff in stock every day, and our co-sponsor, CardHoarder.com, offer the best inventory prices and delivery of cards for Magic Online. I am Evan, living terrible idea factory Erwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Erin Campbell.
Hi.
Reuben Bressler.
Hey, what's up? I'm wearing my favorite robe to tonight's show.
Well, we're glad you...
Thank you all for not making fun of my loungewear during the pre-show.
Well, it's because we were going to wait so we could do it now.
Oh,
for
perfect.
Real? That's the
By
dress
male
up for
streamer
us?
standards, you are dressed up right now.
That, you know what? You're not wrong.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, you really put the time in, dude. It really means something. Well, I do want to note that we have an early access streamer event next week. We're not just going to be live for about an hour or so next week. We're going to be live for probably over 12 hours before it's over. I think 4-hour shifts, right? So bring up the stream schedule right here. Theros Beyond Death early access streamer event is next Wednesday, this week from today, of course, for the Eastern Standard Times on there from 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock. Okay, so the 3-hour shifts. So we'll be doing 9 hours of streaming. From 4 to 7, it's me. From 7 to 10, it's Reuben. And from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m., it's hashtag Aaron After Dark.
Yeah.
I love that I have my own hashtag. That's so cool.
Yeah, we don't get like, you know,
I need
Evan's
my-
fun and Reuben's jokes and Aaron After Dark. No, you get
I
the
need
hashtag.
mine to be Reuben before bedtime. There we go.
Reuben
Is that because
needs
your
warm
decks
milk.
are so boring? Oh.
Wow. Unreal.
Oh.
It's also because I'm geriatric.
Wow. Look, I know one thing, which is I am running to all of the mythics because I want to see the mythic animations. Because those are going to be super cool.
Be the first one to get a clip of the giant wiping everything off the board. That'd be pretty good.
Very cool. That said, we do have a giveaway with our first pick here. It's a $50 gift certificate to CoolStuffInc.com, and if you are a subscriber, then you can get 2 entries into the giveaway. ! Raffle gets you in on that. So sub using the Bezos bucks, and then boom, hit that raffle and get twice the chance. We're going to talk about Theros Beyond Death. We're going to talk about ice cream for every meal. Ice cream for breakfast, ice cream for lunch, ice cream for dinner. That's what we have now, where everything is good, everything is the best ever, everything has so many words on it, everything is doing so much. There are so many previews I would love to just completely lose my mind over. I only chose 3 for the sake of y'all and y'all.
And your own sanity. Yeah.
Yeah, from all y'all. From y'all's don't need me to understand. Like, I will just lose my absolute crap over what is happening with the unbelievable power level of some of these cards where Wizards is just like, yeah, just break it.
Yeah, just go for it.
Bust it. It was, it's very similar to when they did that Once Upon a Time. They're just like, oh, is it really the best thing ever? Well, why don't you just show if it's the best thing ever? And we're like, okay, put it in everything always. And ta-da, we had to ban it. Like, it's unbelievable. Look. We got 3 choices. My first is a Titan. Thank God there's only 2 of them. There are
So
2
far.
Titans. No, they said there's only 2.
They confirmed there were 2.
Okay.
Yeah, Rosewater said there's only 2. Oh my God. Because these things are crazy, weird, overpowered messes. Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath, is a green, a blue, and a generic mana. Hey, remember that mana cost? That mana cost isn't causing problems. No? Not any? Really? Not turn 2? Okay. It's a 6/6 mythic legendary.
You talking about Kumena? Is that the one you're talking about?
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
I thought so.
It's a 3-mana 6/6 legendary Elder Giant. It's a mythic, of course, because you're going to be paying out the nose for this card. When Uro enters the battlefield, you sacrifice it unless it escaped. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, you gain 3 life and draw a card, and then you may put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. You escape it for 2 blue and 2 green, and exiling 5 other cards from your graveyard. You may cast this card from your graveyard for its escape cost. So you have a creature with a very low converted mana cost, a very high power and toughness. I mean, sort of level 0 is just throwing it in the oven to get 2 food while the trigger's on the stack. You have Hushbringer, so you can just get it every time they attack. Because you get it not just when it enters the battlefield, but every time you attack.
That's true. I
ridiculous.
did miss that the first time that I read this card. It didn't register somehow that it was a Titan, so it's every time it attacks or enters the battlefield. This card is neat.
Yeah, this card, like, I mean, I like big, powerful stuff. It's great, but man, this thing scares the living crap out of me. And particularly when you'll see something like a new mythic, and here comes like the legacy players, and they're like, "Oh, this is going to be awesome." I'm like, "Oh my god!"
Pioneer Dredge players are excited for this card, and I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
Woof. This card is something. It's cool. It's definitely
very
sweet.
cool.
I don't think it would be nearly as scary if we weren't currently in this format that green has just utterly dominated. You know, this has been Nissa's world and Hydroid Crassus's world and Oko's world, and now that we're in this sort of Simic ascendancy here. It's crazy.
Especially, that's a good pun. It's both funny and well executed. It's also scary not only because the card is so obviously good by itself, but it also slots directly into these Simic ramp decks that we've been seeing anyway. This slots right alongside Growth Spiral, Nissa, Hydroid Crassus, and friends. You don't need to work to make Uro good. The work's already there.
Yeah.
And as we know, whenever it comes to, oh gosh, there have to be cards in my graveyard for something to be good, you just play Magic, and that's how the cards get in your graveyard. And you play all these cards that mill yourself in a variety of interesting ways. And it's just, okay, look, and I literally just noticed that all three of my cards have green in them because that's where we're at right now, which is...
It was not beyond my attention.
Green is just the best friggin' color, and it's not even close. No. It's not even close. Our next card I here have is another mythic, Polukranos Unchained. Mother of God, the number of words on this card. It's a 4-mana 0/0. It's a black, green, and 2 generic mana for a 0/0 legendary zombie Hydra. It enters the battlefield with 6 +1/+1 counters on it. It escapes with 12 +1/+1 counters on it. If damage will be dealt to Polukranos while it has a +1/+1 counter on it, prevent that damage and remove that many counters from it. For a green, a black, and 1 generic mana, it fights another target creature. It escapes for a green, a black, and 4 generic mana, and you exile 6 other cards from your graveyard. This is a engine unto itself. It is a monster unto itself. It's a card that would basically require that there's just no deck at this point that can ignore the graveyard completely. Yeah. And this is one of those cards where they're like, we're going to make it so good that you can't not play Graveyard Hate. You got to have it in there somewhere. And they've given all the different colors a different variety of ways to get rid of them, because you're going to need to get like really clever to get rid of this stupid Hydra, because I can only imagine the feeling of untapping with this when it's got 12 +1/+1 counters on it. That's just insane.
This card's fine.
Yeah, I mean, the one downside of the original Polukranos was that it did its thing, and you really didn't get to do that again. The new Polukranos can just sort of keep doing it over and over again, and if you happen to wear out all of the counters, that's fine. You just bring it back and do it again, and so it really epitomizes the black-green strategy of just grinding you out, because you can just wear them down and then just get them to the point where they have no creatures and then just swing in with this thing. Like, it can just take over a game. It kind of reminds me of Olivia in a sense, of the way that just the repeatability of it, and it's the haymaker of it.
This one reminds me of Desecration Demon, Reaper of the Wilds. I don't think this card's going to see any play immediately. This card can never get back a cat or get past a cat, so, like, who cares? It is very obviously pushed. 6 mana 4/4 is huge. Being able to rebuy it is huge. The fact that it is a mana sink in and of itself is enormous. 4 mana 6/6 is okay. 6 mana 12/12, that is, we're getting somewhere now.
In the world full of Nissa, to get you to 6 mana and have some left over so you can start fighting some more.
Not to mention a world full of Embercleave. Some other ways to get Polukranos through. Yeah, right. I mean, very scary.
We heard that a lot last week, even with our preview card. Like, the first, we had a lot of, we previewed Nessie and Boar last week, and a lot of people were like, put an Embercleave on it. Like, yeah. People just want to put Embercleave on everything.
That's right.
And that card is, in and of itself, crazy powerful.
Yeah.
And there's also a new 1 mana equipment that grants trample. I mean, there's a lot.
There's a lot.
It is crazy. And my third and final card was revealed today by the Command Zone podcast. Wizards did the right thing. Wizards did a great thing with the spoiler season. We started playing Lotuses and Moxes and the new Planeswalkers on Arena, and they cap it off with one of the biggest casual bombs I have ever in my life. I've played this game a long time, for the far majority of the existence on this planet, and my God, Nyxbloom Ancient is ridiculous. This card is 3 green and 4 generic mana. So 7 total for a 5/5 legendary enchantment creature elemental. It has trample, because why not? If you tap a permanent for mana, let's go back. If you tap a permanent.
That is lands, that is artifacts, that is creatures, that is treasure tokens.
A permanent for mana, it makes 3 times as much of that mana instead. Your Sol Ring taps for 6. You untap this thing with 7 lands, you have 21 mana. Like, I don't care. You untap with 21 mana, you have a ham sandwich, you're winning that game. Like, it don't matter. I'm just putting it through my ham sandwich and you lose. Because that amount of resources to get out of this thing that you can power out using, already we have a mana flare with Nissa.
Right.
You can do this in Commander. You can pair this with Helix Pinnacle, and good luck dealing with that.
Hey, that's a good one. You can pair this with anything in Commander, really. I can't imagine this thing not getting banned in Commander at some point. It's too ridiculous. My one regret is that it doesn't have the word Lotus in the title, because it says mana and has the word 3 in it.
Yeah.
So that would be really, like, if this was a Nyx Lotus Colossus, like, I don't know what they would have done. But this card's absurd. For what it's worth, I think that this is a better top-end green creature than Sylvan Primordial, which is banned in Commander. It's crazy.
Yeah. Like, I was just thinking about rebuilding my Omnath Locus of Mana deck, and this is great inspiration. How big can I get it?
I mean, obviously Grim Monolith, there's yet another card that goes infinite with Grim Monolith and Mana Vault and whatever, but it's mainly the fact that I can't get over the fact that they gave us the Goose. They gave a 1 mana Accelerant. They gave us back essentially the Lana Wells. And not only that, it's like the best Lana Well of all time.
Which is good enough for Modern.
Which, of course, it is. It makes a permanent. It makes a Mox Sapphire, as it turns out. And you got that, along with Paradise Druid and a bunch of other 2-mana accelerants, which is fine. And then you just ramp right into Nissa, who is a mana flare. They wouldn't give us mana flares for, like, years. Yeah. They did, like, 1 time with Heartbeat of Spring, and they were like, oh, God, we shouldn't do that anymore. Maybe we should just put it as a static ability on this awesome Planeswalker. Right. And then you give this thing, which just, like, all of the finales are just ridiculous.
You can
even because I was playing Finale of Devastation and I only had 11 mana last night when I was playing that deck, so I couldn't fire it off for 10 and get the big bonus. Good Lord, I can fire it off for 37 when it comes to this thing. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, this card's absurd. This card is ridiculous, and it's a really good payoff for all of the X stuff that we have in Standard already. It's probably too much, I would think. I mean, you're already ending the game with Endrace Forerunners at that point.
Yeah.
But, there's Mass Manipulation, Hydroid Krasis, Finale of Devastation. There are so many things you want to have X mana for that it's possible that you still want this.
Fair enough. All right, Reuben, your mic's a little low.
I saw that. Yeah, I'm turning it up.
Fantastic. So this card is busted. We got to keep moving here. All right, so Erin, tell us about your first card.
Let me just say my notifications have been trash since this set came out. I have been tagged in just about every single card, and I love it. Thank you so much to everybody who has seen a card and thought of me. That really, really means a lot. But obviously, I'm super hyped for this set. I love graveyard strategies. I also love enchantress strategies, and this is just sort of the chocolate and the peanut butter. And so I am living for this set. The first card I want to talk about is the Gravebreaker Lamia. So Gravebreaker Lamia was just recently previewed. It's 4 colorless and a black. It's an enchantment creature, Snake Lamia, 4/4 lifelink, which is fine. When Gravebreaker Lamia enters battlefield, search your library for a card, put it in your graveyard, and then shuffle your library. This is any card, so it's not like Corpse Connoisseur where it has to be a creature. This is an Entomb, essentially, on a 4/4 lifelink body, which you will take. And as if that's not enough, spells you cast from your graveyard cost 1 colorless less to cast. Like...
You know what? The theme of the past year of Magic the Gathering, the theme has been as if that's not enough.
Exactly.
You can just say that's all the last 14 months of Magic the Gathering releases.
This is 100% going in my Muldrotha deck, which is already tightly packed. I can't fit any more into that deck, but I'm probably going to end up booting Connoisseur for this. But this card is incredible. I mean, the fact that all of my things now cost 1 less. I mean, my God, this is just brutal. Like, I love it so, so much. My second card that I want to talk about is another card that has people really excited, particularly in Modern. My second pick Ox is Ox of Agonas, or Agonas.
Agonas,
So
I
Ox is 3 colorless and 2 red. It is a creature type Ox of 4 power and 2 toughness. When the Ox enters the battlefield, discard your hand and then draw 3 cards.
Oh, God.
And then for the low cost of 2 red, exile 8 other cards. You can bring it back from your graveyard with a +1/+1 counter on it. People are testing this in Modern Dredge. The results are very positive so far. So positive that people are even talking about replacing staples like Narcomoeba, Bloodghast, and Prized Amalgam with this. Like,
Wow.
do you know how good you have to be to replace those cards? Like, oh my god, like the card is just gross. I think even Ben Bleewace had posted something the other day where he's like, is anyone else reading this? It's just Dredge 15. And I was like, I was the kid in the classroom just waving furious.
This card, I mean, I can't.
This card is
As
absolutely
if-
wild. Yeah.
As if it wasn't enough, it gets a +1/+1 counter when you escape it. Because
This creature
giant middle
is
finger.
never attacking or blocking.
Why does this creature
Like-
have to attack or block? It doesn't want to do that at
Doesn't
all.
need to.
It's just, God almighty.
Yeah, red is already a cost you're comfortable playing in Dredge with Conflagration.
Great. Well, just
I
like
mean-
a 5/3 boar Ox thing.
Yeah. Thing's wild.
And then the last card I'm going to talk about, because I got some range, I don't want to just talk about graveyard things. My next card is an uncommon. It's an uncommon. Like, this is the world we're living in. The last card I'm really excited about is Destiny Spinner, which is my new drag name. Destiny Spinner is 1 colorless and a green. It's an enchantment creature human, 2 power and 3 toughness, which is fine.
Fine.
And then the first line is creatures and enchantments can't be countered.
Because why
That's
not?
the first line.
This
first
is like
line.
good enough for Legacy. Like, oh my god. And then as if that's not enough, you can pay 3 colorless and a green. Target land you control becomes an XX elemental creature with trample and haste. Where X is the number of enchantments you control, it's still a land. So if you are playing Evan can't even. But like, if you are playing sort of an Enchantress kind of Pillow Fort style game, you need a way to close out the game. And like, let's make your lands as big as your enchantments.
If only Nissa put +1/+1 counters on the land. If only
my
this thing
God.
gave it the trample that it needed, while also pumping it for however many enchantments you have anyway. Oh my God!
Oh
I
my
just,
god.
you know, I know. It's
Gaia's,
fine. That's
people
where
were
we're at.
comparing this to Gaia's Herald, was it? Which was a rare? I think it was. And
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a rare 1/1.
Yeah, this
Oh
is
my
uncommon.
God.
This is whatever. It's just
so
fine.
good. In Pioneer, I mean, you can just, your Coursers can't be countered, your
Yeah.
Starfield of Nyx can't be countered, and God help you if you stick that against a control deck. It's just so good. Uncommon.
And then it just starts making threats. It makes its own threats while also being a 2-mana 2/3, while also having a great ability. Woo! Oh man, ice cream for dinner. Don't you love it? You like it, guys? You like how every card is absolutely insane and we can't even get to them all? We're just anyway. Reuben, tell me about your first one.
All right, I have an apology to make on behalf of every white card printed in the last 5 years. I'm sorry that you haven't been playable. I'm sorry that Wizards of the Coast has ignored you. And part of the apology process is a new card that they're printing that is incredibly good in a spot that they need to be pushing white in, which is more of those prison hate bear kind of cards. Eidolon of Obstruction is a good place to start. It's a 2/1 enchantment creature spirit. It's a colorless and a white. It's a rare with first strike, and loyalty abilities of planeswalkers your opponents control cost a colorless more to activate. One of the best white cards they've printed that hasn't really had a home, because white cards haven't really seen much play against control strategies, are things like Tithe Taker. And this is another taxing effect. I really love the Thalia model of just make it a little bit tougher. Give them a little bit more mana. Make it a little bit... Give them another hoop to jump through. Because the control decks in particular have to hit their removal on curve. More than the aggro decks even have to hit their creatures on curve. You know, you need to hit the 2-drop Thought Erasure, the 3-drop Oath of Kaya, the 4-drop Wrath. it's even more dependent like that. In the Fires decks, you need to hit the Clarion on 3 with the Fires on 4. It's so they're so dependent on hitting everything that a Force Spike in this environment right now would be absurd, much less a Rhystic Study effect, much less something like this.
I think it's also just something to take advantage of. You know, how many times have we played a Planeswalker and we just sort of go on autopilot where it's like, I have exactly enough, you know, I have my 3 mana or my 4 mana or whatever, I'm going to slam this thing and immediately plus or minus it. That's not an option anymore. Like, do you know how groundbreaking that is?
Yeah. On curve, because you're able to, in the White Winged deck, play this on turn 2. They play their third land, they slam down to Fairy, and like, oops, that's not going to do anything.
And the other unique thing about this one is that it's not a mirrored effect. It's only your opponent's. So if you play your Gideon on turn 3, for example, you can still activate it.
And we've been seeing this a lot lately, these sort of asymmetrical effects. We saw that with Karn and Narset and the new Lavinia, where things that punish the opponent but don't hurt you, and so you can go ahead and do the very thing you're trying to suppress.
And I'm just saying, like, you know, we talk about a 2-mana, 2/3 uncommon, and my boy here, can't be a hate bear. Can't actually be a 2/2.
Can't have 2 toughness.
Come on.
Yeah, that's annoying. It'll still see more play than Polukranos, in my opinion, but I don't think either are going to see a ton of play until blue-green becomes less of a threat.
Yeah, until blue-green leaves a little bit.
But I specifically chose cards that weren't blue or green because they excite me. And so the next card is Evan. Could you pronounce the next card for me?
Now listen, y'all. I'm from the holler. All right.
Wait, show the people what the card is.
I'm gonna go ahead and put the card on the screen.
And then imagine, if you will, how Evan will pronounce the card. And then we'll talk about it.
Well, look, now obviously I was corrected. If you happen to be a patron for $5, you
it
too
carried
can go
us
back.
through the whole pre-show.
Listen,
it carried me through my week, is what it did.
Yes, I was giving Reuben
the
life.
World has
I believe
many.
that's it's called.
The world has many ails. All right, Australia's on fire. We're all going to war. Everyone's dying. But at least Evan pronounces this card the way he pronounces this card.
Aphemia, the Cacopheny.
There it is.
But
Perfect.
in the pre-show, I believe it was Cacophony.
Cacophany, which is why we were talking about fanny packs right at the top of the program. If you missed that,
so down yonder on the Cacopheny.
Man,
it's harder than a handy panty. So
wow. So Aphemia, the Cacophany, as I will be referring to it from now on, is a colorless and a blue 2/1 flyer. It's a legendary enchantment creature. Sorry, colorless and a black. Sorry, colorless and a black 2/1 flyer. It's a legendary enchantment creature harpy with flying. At the beginning of your end step, you may exile an enchantment card from your graveyard. If you do, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. This is an army in a can.
Yes.
2 mana for 4 power the first turn you play it, if on turn 1 you've milled yourself for 4 and gotten some sort of enchantment, such as another Cacophany into your graveyard.
All right, 1 Caca, 1 Fanny, together.
And the good news is that's another thing I really like about this, is not only is it cheap, not only does it have evasion, but drawing multiples isn't the worst thing in the world, because you can play multiples and they can eat themselves, much like harpies would back in Greek mythology anyway. I think that this card is extremely powerful. I expect it to have its own sort of black aggro kind of thing going along with it, and I think this card's really, really good.
I also love the flavor text of the really creepy, like, sing beauty, sing for death and for the dead. It's like, so good. So
I love low mana legendary creatures.
Yes.
I think they're really interesting. I think they can push them in weird ways.
Too.
Right. The commanders, the possibilities in commander are super cool as well. And I think they sort of, that sort of restriction of you only get 1 or 2 mana for this legendary creature, I think that breeds through creativity that can make some really cool, commanders / legends. All right, your third card, sir.
So we are living in a golden age of not garbage phoenixes.
Yeah.
We actually have had a pretty decent run of phoenixes. Most recently, I think, was Arclight Phoenix. I can't think of another phoenix that's been printed since Arclight, but this set has one that seems good.
Well, there was the one from Ixalan, the one that would rebuy itself. The 4/3.
Right. There was. Well, that was Rekindling Phoenix, which was very, very, very good. And of course, Arclight Phoenix came more recently, still in Standard, in guilds. And now we have Phoenix of Ash, which I'm hesitant to say looks really good.
Yeah.
It's two colorless red. I'm sorry, it's one colorless red for a 2/2 with flying and haste. So it has Chandra's Phoenix stats immediately.
Right.
Two colorless and red, it gets +2/+0 till the end of the turn. It has escape of two colorless red, comma, exile 3 other cards from your graveyard, and Phoenix of Ash escapes with a +1/+1 counter on it. So I think that's great.
I think that's bananas, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that it's not the clear, like, wow, this is the best card in the set because of how, powerful and redundant it can be, versus like, yeah, this is also a very good escape card, along with all the other good escape cards that we've been talking about and all the other push things that we've been seeing. So, as a red creature, you're looking for something really good to play with your red deck. This is definitely up there. This seems like an auto include in any red deck you're going to play until the next set comes out. Honestly.
And it does something with your graveyard, of course, as it's a Phoenix. And so even if they kill it, that's not the end of the problems that they're going to suffer. The haste is obviously huge. The flying on a haste creature in a red deck usually isn't huge, but it's something. I mean, I'm not going to throw it away. I'm not going to kick it out of bed for eating crackers, but it's not something I particularly am worried about. But you know what? 3 mana for a 2/2 haste, 4 mana for a 3/3 haste, like, that's pretty great, especially following up a Wrath. It's really, really good.
Even just random burn spells, you're going to have some chaff in your graveyard that you're going to have those 3 cards that you can file away for those.
Right.
I mean, you're going to have Fabled Passage. You know what I mean? Like,
I was going to say, if you thought Fabled Passage was good, put it in every monocolor deck.
Put it in every deck ever
Every
at
deck
this
ever.
point.
Yeah.
Because there's so much that wants cards in graveyards, just put it in everything. It's fantastic. That said, last bit here on Theros Beyond Death for the pre-release. Bringing the slide up on the screen right now.
Yeah.
Our friends at Loading Ready Run, which we have been fortunate enough to all have been there at one time or another.
Can you believe that was, for me it was 1 year ago, and for you guys it was 2 years ago.
I know.
Like,
I'm so wistful. I want nothing more than to be doing that ever, but alas, earwax.
Indeed. But the Theros pre-release happens 11 a.m. Pacific this Friday, January 10th. Going to have Nissa cosplay. Going to have Alias V, which is going to be awesome. The Asian Avenger. Melissa DeTora is going to show up from the Wizards.
Who was on our pre 2 years ago.
And it's so funny. I don't think Melissa gets nearly enough credit for just how funny she is. It's a very dry sense of humor, but when you get it out of her, she's just a lovely human being.
Oh yeah, Melissa's fantastic and super smart, and just
Don't forget the Asian Avenger.
I mentioned that, it got lost.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Asian Avenger is there as well. So the pre-release is great. It's Ariel axed, which I always love.
Love it.
So they just, they have a good time. And I hope you guys don't embarrass yourself with a giant misplay. That was so ridiculous. I made it on the year-end best of clips.
That's true. Nissa cosplay in particular, flying from the Swiss Alps.
Yeah.
That's a 19-hour flight. That's a longer trip than the Von Trapps made escaping Austria. So hopefully, she doesn't get too waylaid and tired on the way in.
Because it's a lot of work. One of the things that I was really surprised by is just how exhausted I was afterwards. And we weren't even really doing that. We weren't doing anything physical. Like, we weren't building sets or anything. But being in front of a camera and filming, 2 days of content is a lot. Like, I mean,
even our full set reviews of a day of full content are exhausting, much less up at the Moonbase. Yeah,
I definitely gained a new respect for them after that.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to move on here to Gather the Townsfolk. The Pioneer B&R schedule has been officially put in place at this point. January 6, 2020, the Pioneer ban announcement had no changes, which is good. The next one is going to be January 13th. This is our last standalone Pioneer ban announcement, they said, starting next week. Any changes to Pioneer will be part of their normal B&R announcement with all other formats and not take place every single week. So we have gone from format announced to format is in somewhat of a stable position.
It seems like it. I played a couple games last night. Over 1,200 people were in the league, which is crazy. No deck seems to be really more dominant than the others. There were 2 Soulflayer decks that did well the other day. Think about that one. The format is just a lot of fun right now. It is a deck builder's paradise. Just about anything is viable. I ran into Mono Blue Devotion, and I ran into Zombies, Black-White Rally Zombies.
Nice.
I think they did a good job of getting rid of the more problematic cards, and certainly if more come up, I think they'll tackle that. But for now, it feels like it's settled down a little bit.
Yeah, which is great. They sort of made that format out of whole cloth, and now it's a thing that people are excited about. And we have thousands of players at Cool Stuff Games. Like, people show up for Pioneer. They really, really like it.
We've gotten to the point where Red Deck Wins is the most popular deck in the format, which I'm always in favor of.
Which is sort of a natural progression, oftentimes.
Right.
Yeah.
It's one of the decks that you're fine with being the top deck of the format.
Right.
So yeah, it seems in a good place right now.
Absolutely. All right, so let's move on here. Reuben, I'll have to ask you to narrate this one, ideally in the voice from these tweets you see,
Indeed.
because
He's
it comes
have
directly.
You assassinated for this.
Indeed. So Savjz is a popular Twitch streamer and YouTube content creator, mostly known for his Hearthstone and Magic the Gathering content creation. He was also a member of the MPL last season, to some consternation and some controversy. And he has a unique way of speaking that I will use now in order to relay the news of Savjz electing to not return as an MPL member.
And we do this out of love. We're not trying to, pick
We
on him.
only
We think
we
Savjz
only
is great.
roast the ones we love, as they say at the Friars Club. Last year's special invite to play the MTG MPL was a really cool opportunity for me, and I got to play some awesome events and meet some really cool people. Thank you, Wizards Magic. As last year's MPL player, I was invited to play in Magic Rivals League this year. If I competed, I would want to give it my 100%. However, you guys know how incredibly much my stream means to me, and in order to fully focus on content creation, I have decided to decline. Magic Esports program is really amazing, but burnout is not one of my goals for 2020. And the combination of streams and hard practice off-stream to play on a high level would have been too much. As a fan of the game, I am excited to see who will lift the trophies this year. GLHF.
So I call shenanigans on burnout being the reason he didn't take this. Like, no shade. I have nothing against Savjz personally, but I find it interesting that they asked him back, quite honestly, because it was clear that what they wanted from their MPL players, he was not able or willing to provide you. And so, with that being said, why would you put him in that spot again? Number one, and I find it cute that he's saying that burnout is the reason. Where it's like, girl,
I think that this is a kind way for both parties to part ways when neither party really wanted Savjz to return. I don't think Savjz wanted to be part of the Rivals League. I think the invitation was compulsory because he was part of the MPL last year, and everyone who was MPL last year that didn't re-qualify for MPL gets invited to Rivals. Okay. I don't think Savjz had his heart in the competitive structure of the MPL. It's a lot different than the competitive environment of Hearthstone, for example, where you can enter a tournament, try to win some cash. I'm sure he'll enter Magic Arena tournaments, like DreamHack and the like. But this sort of league, where it's compulsory to join and take part, is a season. It's a lot more time investment that he didn't want to take part in, particularly because it would have been a step down from the MPL. And so
he was skipping events. He was skipping like paper events and whatnot. And not if there's anything wrong with that, that's his choice. No, but if you're going to be part of sort of like the pro league program and you're not showing up at like the pro events, it's kind of
it would be sort of like if you played both this is going to be a weird one, but if you played competitive tennis, which has like a 10-month season in a year, right? And also were competitive in another sport. Because Savjz is competitive in a bunch of games.
Oh, yeah.
But you had a deal with the International Tennis Association that you had to go to all of the tennis events.
So we're talking like a Bo Jackson situation here.
Sort of, except for that season's that's shorter. I mean, baseball's a shorter season, football's a shorter season. He could make it work, theoretically. Sure. But the season is so long for Magic and all esports, where there isn't really an off-season. I think that it might have actually led to burnout. And I think that it is a mature decision to see that on the horizon. I do think it is a convenient excuse. I also don't think it's wrong. I don't think it's the reason he said no, but I also think it could have been, and that would have been fine.
Could have been a factor.
So, moving on.
Good luck
here.
to Savjz going forward. Him and Sho have both been two of my favorite streamers whenever I used to watch Hearthstone and saw them play competitive games. They're very, very smart.
The thing I love most about Savjz is that his wife will chew your throat out. Like, if you come for her man on Twitter, she will get in those mentions and she will make you pay. And I love it. I'm like, get him, girl.
Yeah.
All right, so we're a week or so from the pre-release, couple weeks from release. We have these cards being spoiled. Oftentimes, Wizards will provide a sort of a slide for you, a slide that explains like what the card is doing in a story sense. And so if this is our new Magic story setup, it sucks. I have no idea what the hell is happening on Theros. You've not explained what Elspeth is doing. You've not even connected the dots of what the hell the trailer is doing with what these cards are doing. And what? Is there a story spotlight somewhere? Could you put that in there? Did you know the gods were clashing? I had no idea the gods were clashing.
There's a lot happening on Theros right now. So if I'm understanding everything correctly, the gods are feuding. At the same time, you also have the Titans, which are bursting forth from the Underworld. Everything's bursting forth from the Underworld.
Well, there's an Underworld breach, as far
there's
as
a
I'm aware.
breach. Then you have Ashiok having some sort of plans, which I think is tied into the Underworld somehow, but we're not really clear how. There's just a lot. We have this new Planeswalker, which we don't know a lot about, which we should want to know more about. You know, it's a very exciting character in a space that we don't often see before, with amazing art by Magali. This is the set that we would. There are maybe some sets that we could get by without knowing a lot about, but in this one in particular, there's just so much going on and such a rich tapestry here that we just don't know enough about. And it's like, this was just a bad set to really start implementing this new story method.
So hold on a second. 3 cards were spoiled today. Of these 3 cards, which do you think is the story spotlight card? Elspeth Conquers Death, Elspeth's Nightmare, or Triumphant Surge?
Well, given the setup and your less than enthusiastic delivery of the third one, I guess it's the third one?
It's the third one.
It's weird.
Elspeth Conquers Death is not a story spotlight card because Lord knows it doesn't say anything about the story or some important story point where she literally comes back from the dead. But nope, that's not a story moment right there. Instead, it's a random like damage spell for a mana removal spell for power 4 or greater creatures. Okay, fine, sure, whatever. I'm just saying, we used to be like really interested. At least we, piqued our interest in the story. And if it did pique your interest, you had things and resources you could go to have it explained to you. And now we have these weird slides that you have to hope are included in your previews that you pay attention to, somehow stitch this story together, and somehow give a crap. Like, this is going to lead long term, if they don't stop this, to us not caring about any of these characters. Because they're just going to start being like random cards and things are happening, and you're trying to tell me I need to care about these demigods, but you have not explained who's making them and why.
Oh, that's the other thing. The gods have like chosen champions to fight for them. But
yeah. I feel bad for the Vorthoses. I feel straight bad at this point because they have taken a wrecking ball to what was something that was like a beacon of awesome at a point in time. Ixalan as a set and a block was not the greatest, okay? It had serious problems. It was a
storyline.
Right, but the storyline was great because even if the cards were kind of bad and even if they forgot that Changelings was the reason that Lorwyn was such a good tribal set, we still had that really cool Jace Vraska thing going on. And it was awesome.
Storyline in Ixalan did the impossible. It made people give a crap about Jace, which people hadn't done for a long time. And there was incredible development in Jace as a person, in Vraska as a person. The fact that they had a relationship that was strictly platonic. They were building towards this nice sort of almost Scully and Mulder dynamic of women and men can be friends. And, they could have taken it in a ship or a relationship direction. But to show two people people having a functional, healthy adult friendship was beautiful. And I mean, that story did a lot for those characters, and we just don't have anything close to that anymore.
Yeah, we're essentially 10 years ago. We're essentially where we were 10 years ago with the story, which is it's all in the flavor texts and in bits and pieces.
Which is fine if your story is simple, but when you have so
Right.
many threads being weaved in this plot line with gods, and then the Gruul god, which was gone from the first block, why wasn't she there for that? If she was there to put these titans away, she was clearly in the plane somewhere, in the realm. Where was she this whole time? Why is Ashiok... And what does Ashiok have to do with Erebos and death? Ashiok was nightmares and dreams. We just have so many questions.
Yeah.
I just feel like, it almost feels like, I feel like bad that we were just like talking about how awesome Allison Lurs was at her job because we just weren't given like enough credit to everybody else. And somehow it cascaded into just no story at all.
But how petty is that one person being so awesome made them take the toys away from everybody? Like,
it's just so weird.
It's very strange.
I don't know. I just do think the Vorthoses, I think, are really hurting right now, and it's going to long-term deal damage. But right now, in the short term, it just causes confusion and, like, just not caring. Like, who knows what's going on with Theros when I don't understand any of the conflicts or why anybody's fighting or what their gods or titans are supposed to be doing about it.
Yeah.
Weird. Bring up an example. We have multiple examples. There are terrible wildfires happening down in Australia. The Earth is on fire. I don't know if you knew that, but the planet is literally on fire.
Having lived in California for about 15 months, I can confirm.
Yeah.
Yes, and it sucks, and it's awful, but we're doing things to try to help out Riley Knight, Australian himself. My country is burning and I want to help, he tweets. We all know that Underworld Breach will end up banned. That card is absolutely stupid. Absolutely stupid. I have taken apart my cube, he says, and will give 50 foils to whoever predicts when. To enter, donate $10 in Australian dollars to the RFS and reply with a screenshot and your chosen date. So this lets you, put your money down on what you think may or may not be happening and win. Those types of bets are always fun, and this is the type of bet that you can feel good about, essentially.
She also did a playmat giveaway as well. The artist Adam Paquette has been donating all of his print sales to this. And even outside of Magic, there are many, many Twitch streamers that have been using their platforms to raise money. There was a collective of streamers that raised over 318,000 Australian dollars for this cause, or about 220,000 US dollars. Many other streamers. There's an Overwatch streamer named Kusta Kennedy. He raised over 10,000 Australian dollars. Paladin Amber, who I'm a huge fan of, who also lives in Australia, she raised about 5,000 Australian dollars. This is what you should be doing. If you have the platform and you have the ability to make change, this is what you can do with that. And so it is certainly very unfortunate and very sad what is happening down there, but seeing people step into that power and saying, I can help, and making change is really a great thing. And so if you have the ability to donate to any of these causes, please do so, because you cannot mistake what is happening down there. This is real, this is happening, and it's just devastating on a number of levels. And Australian summer is just about to start, and what?
It finally rained in parts of Australia for the first time in a couple of months, at the very least, in those portions. And you could see the looks on the faces of some of the folks trying to recover from wildfires.
The effect on the wildlife is,
Yes, two other stories really stuck out to me on that front this week. One was, of course, Robert Irwin, Steve Irwin's son, who essentially had, everything he does is so impressive, but he's like 16 and had this impassioned speech of wanting to, essentially koalas need to be put on the endangered species list now for there to be any recovery possibility. And just a really powerful statement from him. There are millions of animals that have died. Up to 90% of some of the populations of some of these iconic animal species, like koalas, have been drastically killed off. To say that they were impacted would be the understatement of the century, is a huge understatement. The second story, of course, is the one that took over the internet this week, which is modern problems require modern solutions. And there was a content creator who was sending nudes to anyone who sent her $10 to her OnlyFans.
Not all heroes wear clothes. Just
right.
saying.
She raised $1 million. And, lost her boyfriend and got outed in like with her real name, and she's like, I don't care, this is my philanthropy, and so she's the naked philanthropist. So yeah, that was pretty spectacular.
Man, it gotta feel pretty good when your booty raised $1 million.
I mean,
like,
but I mean,
my butt raised
if that's what you can do. I mean, we're living in weird times right now, and it's so easy to feel helpless, and it's so easy to feel like you don't have the means to contribute. If I looked like that, I would probably do the same thing. Like, you know,
I mean,
like
we're watching really pretty girls go from 0 to 6 figures a year.
Well,
on
it's
OnlyFans.
also exactly, and OnlyFans is another thing about OnlyFans, and I hate to go off on a sidetrack here, but websites like Patreon, where we make a lot of money, and a lot of other social media fundraising sites do not take kindly to the kind of content that the naked philanthropist creates. OnlyFans is not a porn site by nature, but it allows any content creator to produce any type of content, essentially. Almost any type of content, and that includes this type of situation.
I've actually seen a few streamers transitioning to this, and we've even seen it with cosplayers too that have moved into sort of lewd cosplay or things like that. And so, you know, there is certainly a market for this sort of thing. There's nothing wrong with that. And so, you know, and I was really surprised and pleasantly surprised to see that most of the feedback surrounding the philanthropist was positive. I was expecting to click on the replies and see the usual trash, but by and large, people were pretty darn supportive of it. Of like, hey, God, do you know?
Hell yeah. So either way, we're doing what we can to provide some, you know, hey,
there will not be Ruby selfies at any Patreon level.
It will be the opposite. If you don't donate $10, we will post our nudes.
Exactly. I'll tell you what, if you go to the feedback channel on the Discord, if you really want Ruby selfies,
if you want Ruby butt, okay?
It's not good.
That Ruby
Trust
butt.
me, it's not good. It's not good.
I'm not saying you need it.
We just have to work on your lighting and angles, Reuben. That's all.
Fair. Lighting and angles.
I got plenty of angles.
Hey-yo. Lots of lighting. All right. The Judge Academy, the artist formerly known as the Judge Program. The Judge Academy is officially gone global as of 1/7/20. They have, in 3 months, now have the same coverage area around the globe, just like the Judge Program did before it was canceled by Wizards, and Wizards stopped caring if judges are at events. And now we get to see the Judge Program continue, and we get to appreciate organizers who will still pay for and hire and keep great judges on staff because they want to run really well, you know, tight events. And the fact that you can run a PTQ type event and not require any sort of judge still blows my mind. It just blows my mind. Yeah.
I don't know what to think about this. I'm going to have to defer to the judges in our chat. The first reaction isn't the most enthusiastic reaction I've ever seen, which is Pharmacist Judge, our resident judge, and the one of the pre-release chat judges, who says, "Yay."
As part of the divorce, as Pharmacist Judge informs us, Wizards can't require a judge because if they require a judge, suddenly they are needed. Are they needed as employees? Are they somehow connected as contractors? Where does that lie?
This
and
is
Wizards
such a
is like,
weird middle. Like nothing means anything anymore, and it's weird.
Wizards is just like, we make game pieces.
The
We
good
like to
news-
sell you shiny ones that cost a lot of money, and that's all.
The good news is, what's a GP? So who cares if there's judges?
If there's only 500 people showing up, whatever, it's fine.
Right.
Who cares, right? Yeah, it's fine. Whatever.
Don't need a judge if you don't have events.
I know, right? Like, you know, but this was something that they promised was happening, and it's nice that they did come through and make that happen.
Sure.
So, Mark Rosewater has, I believe, kind of started drifting away from the bracket thing, where, you know, X versus Y a million times until you finish a bracket out. And is starting to ask questions on his Twitter, like, inquiring minds want to know, Magic is a better game when the following is stronger: threats or answers? Excuse me. And as of right now, answers are winning 63% versus 36% for threats.
I'm a threat man.
I'm
a threat man myself.
I can't remember who said it. Well, I think it was Ari Lax, who I think says something like, it's if you have I think people want really good threats, but they want to think when they look at a poll like this that they really want answers, so they don't want to get rolled over by something insane. So we love good threats, but at the same time we want good answers. That's why, I mean, I'm just like, could we just reprint Path to Exile? Could we just give us something great to fight these stupidly overpowered creatures?
No, like too general of threats is not, or too general of answers is not good. I like it when threats are super strong but have huge holes in what they're able to answer. Things like Condemn or Ultimate Price. Things like Fatal Push are too open, I think.
Ultimate Price was nice. Ultimate Price was very good. Also, Cast Down was also very good.
That's a great one.
And interesting. And the fact that you have to pay more for it, I get it. But again, you have to pay more for it in the colors that would require you to do so. Does that make sense? Where like the black spells cost 2 and 3 and have the restrictions, and the white spells are like, just get the hell out of here. But here's the Oblivion Ring, go. Here's
think about it in a different way. Look at how good the graveyard-based threats are in this set. Mm-hmm. They're pretty strong. They're not world-breaking. They're not, Bridge from Below and Dread Return, but they're very good. And the answers are really good, but in like specific ways, right?
It's
like there isn't any end all be all graveyard. The closest you got is the new 1-mana artifact to anything that it answers everything graveyard based, right? So like I like that kind of interplay where you have strong like 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10 threats, and then like 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 answers that in certain situations are like 1s and 2s.
I mean, you say that, but Leyline of the Void and Grafdigger's Cage are still in this.
Those are still in standard. Those are different. Those are different, yes.
And our creatures at this point are not 8s and 9s. They're 12s and 17s and 32s and whatever. And we can't even get Journey to Nowhere. Journey to Nowhere is not a printable, playable, currently available in standard card. That's ridiculous. 2 mana answer a creature. Is that really too much to ask? Like, we seriously have to start the line at 3 mana for all the colors, even white was supposed to answer the things?
I mean, 1 mana put an enchantment on the bottom of its owner's library against a god. Like, I like how that lines up. I wish that we had more of that interplay.
Yeah.
The fact that the 1 mana green instant puts enchantments on the bottom library, and the white didn't. White got a reprint of a sorcery.
D-Glamour, we had the Unravel the Ether, so it's not unusual that it's green, but...
No, it's not insane, it's just the best answer to these enchantment gods. It's the best answer to enchantments, period, in the set. Instant speed, 1 mana, and it's the green card.
I agree.
Whereas white gets 2 mana sorcery, exile, which is great and all, but like...
Right.
Really? Couldn't that be the other way around? Seriously? Like
I don't think it's well within the white color pie to shuffle things into its owner's library.
Or they could at least give it to us at instant speed instead of sorcery speed for the white card.
They could upgrade Revoke Existence. Yeah.
Yes. Give me instant speed Revoke Existence. Give me something that makes white feel like it's got something to do. That is this the color of answers? Because it doesn't feel like it anymore. Like, white is the color of, I guess, weenies and life gain and life gain on weenies.
And taxing, yeah.
Yeah, and some taxing every once in a while. Sure, okay. It's just frustrating. I want everyone to promise, not right now, but everyone to promise who's listening to this or watching this that you're going to go and look at Loading Ready Run's preview.
Yeah.
Listen, because I'm old man magic, all right? I can tell you this. I was the first person ever on this planet to make a preview video. A video for a brand new Magic card that no one has ever seen. I made the first one. It wasn't very good. But I made it, okay? And I'm telling you, we have climbed the mountain. And yes, the professor has done some absolutely amazing work. But I also think there's an importance of brevity, the soul of wit. Mm-hmm. And the fact that this is like less than 2.5 minutes, and it is absolutely hysterical.
Yeah.
And they put everything into it, whether it's the props, whether it's the wardrobe, whether it's the accents.
The wigs.
Oh my God! And the lines, they like they're so wonderfully dry. It's absolutely incredible. I'm telling you, in 14 years, this is the best. And I want you to go see the best preview because it is hilarious. It's great. Graham and Kathleen absolutely destroyed it.
They hired Christine Sprinkle to make the prop, which is really cool. And they were unrecognizable. I clicked on this and I couldn't even tell it was them. And the fact that they're still able to, make us laugh and find characters that we've never seen before is just really a testament to their abilities and how funny they are and how brilliant they are. And they also knew what the audience wanted to see. They weren't trying to bury you in a 7-minute video that they knew nobody was going to watch. They were like, let's keep it cute, let's keep it brief, let's give you the card. And one of the rare moments where we're talking about the content as well as the card itself, because again, normally we cut straight to the card, but I saw a lot of praise for the video itself.
Yeah, the cinematography for the video is spot on of any home shopping network you've happened to have watched in the past. Just really well done and just amazing.
It was just so good, and there were so many good lines, and I was really impressed, and I thought those guys just really killed it. And of course, Reddit, just copied the image in 4 seconds and didn't link to the video, because that's how we do things. Tomoharu Saito is a Magic legend, one way or another. Whether he's getting disqualified and taken out of the Hall of Fame running, whether he's been a pro for a very, very long time and impacted a whole lot of players' lives, be able to watch him play Magic over the years at a very high level, because regardless of the angles that may have been shot, Tomoharu Saito is a damn good Magic player.
Yeah.
And mentioned that he is retiring. He's going to run Haruruya, I believe, full-time at this point.
Going to run Haruruya full-time.
Yep, and step back from the competitive Magic world.
He's a family too. That played a
yeah,
factor.
And the fam now, I think too. Yeah, so and then that's great. So I mean, obviously, this is sort of like another chapter in his life, and I hope it goes well.
Yeah, there's a couple things. I mean, one, you never really ever retire from Magic. I saw that conversation the other day. I think Ryan Svain chimed in on that one of, you don't really retire, you just take a long time to play your next game. And so, he could very well come back. We've seen it before, but, he's still making a huge impact on the game with his, run as a store owner and as a tournament organizer. We've certainly given him praise for the way that the Japanese events are run, what with their tatami areas, and they're giving students free entry into events, and their snack areas and things like that. And so he's still going to be around. He's still going to be doing Magic things, but just in a different capacity. And I think we're going to be seeing this a little bit more. These guys are hitting 30 and 40 and having kids, and we're not these young bucks traveling the world anymore. They're wanting to settle down, and we're just waiting for that new generation to rise up and take their spots.
I also would like to add that he has created one of the 7 wonders of Magic storefronts in the world. There are a couple of these mechas that you just kind of have to see. The old RIW storefront before the fire, to me, was like, you had to see it to really appreciate. It was 30 feet of nothing but trophies on a wall. The final neutral ground before it closed was one of those stores. Star City Games obviously is a mecca that people go to for far and wide, even if there's not an invitational there. I've heard that the Channel Fireball location in the Bay Area is like that. I'm hard pressed to think of any outside the United States except for Haruruya, and I've seen photos, and it surpasses them all. Like, in terms of the play space, how they present the trophies, the history, the gravitas, it's wild. And so, if that is what Tomoharu Saito could pull off before he was putting his energy into it, man, I perish the thought of what could be done.
Right. Haruruya essentially was when Tomoharu Saito, for a very long time, if you were back sort of in competitive Magic back in the day, he was all about the binder trading, the buying and selling of cards. And we're talking like lots of cards. Yeah. We're talking essentially muling cards from American events over to Japanese events and vice versa. And that was essentially his business and how he made his money if it weren't for Magic playing, prizes or whatever.
And it was kind of interesting that he could just buy cards kind of at rate and bring them back to Japan, and then bring Japanese cards at rate to America, because people really liked having Japanese cards. And so all you had to do was travel and make a tiny margin on every card.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, even to this day, there are places in Japan that say, we will buy 100 of this rare. It has to be in perfect condition, and you have to bring us 100, and we will pay you just under what you would probably consider retail price. But you got to get them, you got to find them, and you got to get them there.
I had heard rumor way back in the day, this might be an old wives' tale at this point, but that there was one guy in Singapore, that brought in all the dual lands, and he was a floor trader, apparently, and he would just buy dual lands for market value and bring them back to Singapore and make a good living off of that, because you just couldn't get cards.
Yeah, and there's even vendors now where if you go to a Grand Prix and you see a buy price that like seems insane, like $2 or $3 below a retail price,
right,
they're probably doing something of that nature. They're looking for very specific, perfect condition cards to move to a different area where they buy higher.
But yeah, real quick to go back to Saito. I mean, there is no doubting his skill. There is some doubting his stats, but there is no doubting his passion either.
And his impact.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to touch a few things here in Desperate Ravings. One is a very important sort of another, I don't know, sort of another sort of hole in the wall at this point of FLGSs and what they're able to get and sell and the way they're able to get and sell products. Ultra Pro recently tweeted out that the Nylea Keen-Eyed Playmats, these beautiful galaxy arts featuring the MTG Theros gods, will be available on Amazon. You've never, to this point that I can recall, unless, unless a third-party seller put up these playmats, you couldn't get them directly from Ultra Pro. Whereas before, your friendly local game store would have to order them from the distributor had to feed them to the game store, they have to take them out of the thing and show them to you and hope you buy it, and so on and so forth, versus like Amazon, which is just probably going to order an absolute crap ton of them, have them available to ship, via Amazon Prime, and sort of cuts another little tiny piece out of what could be a profitable product for your game store. Now is just another thing I bought on Amazon to add to my Amazon Prime order.
Somebody posted a blog post with a running list of LGSs that have shut down between July 1st of last year and December 31st of last year, and that list contains 91 game stores. Now, not all of these can chalk up those closures to Magic, so you can't look at this and say Magic is to blame for all of this, but it is a significant uptick from the previous year. Even when the article first started, when they first started compiling it, I think they said there were only so many on it, and then more got added. And a lot of these are stores that have been around for ages, that have been considered institutions that just weren't able to make it work anymore. One of the ones that stands out for me is Moonbase Market, which just recently announced in St. Louis that they're going to be shutting its doors. That has been a very popular store that puts on terrific events, and they will no longer be open either. And so you can't deny that the choices Wizards is making or are making aren't affecting stores, because we are seeing that, and I don't think we've seen the last of it either.
Yeah, I think I hate this.
I think I hate definitely seeing game stores close. Now, no, this isn't just like, because Wizards did something. Sometimes they're just poorly ran. Sometimes they make bad bets.
But
sometimes something terrible happened. But it's definitely not helping.
Yeah.
And there are certainly things that you can say bit by bit, action by action. You can no longer, as a store, directly order stuff from Wizards. They used to allow you to order a case of product like every, I don't know, in some interval. You could order product directly from Wizards. You had to get it through a distributor, whereas now you got to get it through a distributor. You used to be able to get all of your pre-release product directly from Wizards, a flat price that Wizards would guarantee you. Now you have to get it from distributors that can charge whatever they want and make you buy less or more in order to be part of their sort of like their programs. You got to buy so much in order to get a certain discount, where they can roll pre-release stuff into that. Then Wizards is selling directly on Amazon. This is just what we're talking about with Ultra Pro. So now direct to Amazon, direct to Target, direct to Walmart, like all of these things are direct channels that Wizards is able to directly send product. They are able to get in giant orders and send, thousands probably boxes to these outlets so they can sell them
But
directly.
you can host viewing parties now.
Okay.
Who wants
All right.
this?
I don't know.
Support your
But
friendly local game store. Nobody makes $1 billion.
It's rough. That said, another little bit here. Of course, we have to hear from Patrick Sullivan, who just cannot have a hot take. He only has the perfect, most seasonally
He
warm.
does sometimes. His batting average isn't 1,000 anymore. But
Well,
you're right.
yeah.
He's got the highest. He's really good.
He's got a very high batting average. Well, a couple days ago on the 6th, he said, I hope there aren't any internal conversations about seeing if Modern can adapt to Oko or whatever. I don't think the format can, and I don't think the puzzle of solving it, quote unquote, is particularly interesting either. Nothing to be learned or gained here. Please ban and move on. It has a +2 that makes a Mox Sapphire right now. Like, that's what it does. That's insane.
This card just warps every format it's legal in. You know, we see it in every format. You know, I've said I have not had the desire to really play competitive Magic since this card came out. Seeing the impact it's had on formats has just not made the formats fun for me. Seeing the decks that are wrapped around this card, you know, I don't want to play against Bant Miracles in Legacy. I don't want to play against Urza Oko in Modern. Like, you know, I don't want to play against Rug Planeswalkers in Vintage. Like, I have no desire to play any of the decks that have sprung up as a result of this card, and it just makes formats not fun. People just don't want to deal with it anymore. I think people are exhausted on some level, and particularly in Modern. You know, Modern just doesn't have the tools to really deal with it. We saw the dominance of it at the opens the last couple weekends. It just needs to go. And I know when's the next banning announcement, in like a week or two?
It's another week. Yeah,
people are begging for it to go, or Urza,
Urza. Like, Modern Horizons, like, how many mistakes can we chalk up over and over to them going like, well, what if we just put the pedal all the way down, you know? What if we just gave ice cream to everybody?
To be fair, we want them to take risks, but if you're going to release such powerful cards, you also need to be more vigilant when it comes to managing your ban and restricted list. And if you're going to take a laissez-faire attitude to this, it's just not going to work. You cannot push out powerful cards and then be relaxed when it comes to addressing them when they go awry. Right. You can't do that.
This is a fish or cut bait moment. Like, there's no way, and you should cut bait. There's no way to get Oko to be reasonable in any format.
It's just busted. And they messed the numbers up. And I'm sorry they messed the numbers up. But like, they messed them up so badly.
There's
that it's
no
hard
recovery.
To justify.
You just have to get rid of it.
Like, it was literally just I have to hear the story. Wizards, please. Somebody write the Ghost of R&D's Closet and tell me exactly what happened. I know that it was a mistake. I know something changed at the last minute, because that's what happens every single time with these cards. I just want to know what happened. You know, the numbers went this way, the mana cost went that way, someone went +1. Hey, what if it just did +2? This ability isn't that good. Let's make it plus instead of 0 or something. Like, I gotta know. That card is stupid. All right, so last little bit here, there was some more information provided here in Splash Damage for Magic Legends. GameInformer.com is doing a whole spread. I put the link here in the chat. It's going to be in the show notes. GameInformer.com/Magic Legends. This is the new massive multiplayer game that they're going to bring out. It looks very much like Diablo, and it has sort of a deck spell system where you can have up to 12 spells in your deck, and then you use one of the 4 buttons on your gamepad or like WASD to cast one, and then it's shuffled back in, and then you draw a different one. That is as I understand it, and it could be totally different.
All that, but the game does look cool. You know, obviously I played Diablo and Diablo 3, and so that's a huge selling point for me personally. A lot of us came up through MMOs, came up through World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy or whatever, and so a lot of people are really interested in this. We're very lucky, and I think the community manager for this is a fan of ours. So if you're watching, toss us some beta invites. We'll make it worth your while. And so I'm really excited. This is something I could be very interested in. You know, being able to merge my two interests like this is definitely up my alley.
Absolutely. So it's super duper cool, and you get to sort of cover their coverage of the gameplay and the coverage of sort of what the game looks like and how it's going to feel. I'm super excited. You know, I like Magic things to succeed. Let's branch out into other areas that aren't just the card game. Because if I can kind of get tired of playing Arena, but then I can kind of jump into a different sort of Magic the Gathering-esque world that still gives me a feeling of playing Magic, but I'm not just like tied to playing Standard, or I don't want to do a draft or whatever.
I mean, I'm going to always defer to the original Estrus's opinions, the WoW head of the party here.
Who's the WoW head?
Because I have no MMORPG experience really.
I mean, it's tricky because I wouldn't consider Diablo an MMO. Like, I mean, it looks great. When I think MMO, I think of like raiding, and I think of PvP, and I think of vast worlds, and I think of leveling.
And Legends is not going to be like that?
Well, they say it is, but the little... And to be fair, this is like a 40-second clip. Sure. We can only glean so much. But I think it's going to be a sweet game. I'm not convinced it's going to be an MMO, per se. At least fair. The way that I'm used to it. And, but it still can be great.
And to be fair, I also think Wizards is partnering with another company to do another... something with D&D that's D&D related that is kind of Diablo-ish or WoW-ish. I don't know how similar or different those 4 games could possibly be. Again, this is not my wheelhouse. So
I know for certain, however, Pharmacist Judge said, are these ancillary products where we're going to get the story from now on? No. Wizards won't give you the story directly. They're not going to give it through the game that they don't have direct control over.
Well, when you're playing World of Warcraft, you get your quest text. So, like, you have to click on the NPC, and you get a little story as to why you have to collect the zebra hooves or whatever. I mean...
Right, but what I'm saying is that game is going to somehow sync directly up with the current plane and try to tell the current story.
From your lips to Heliod's ears, we would get the story in an interesting and new fashion.
All right, so let's move on here. Turn the corner to the finisher.
Is it time already?
In 1 week's time, the early access streamer event will be in full swing. #sponsored. And I'm going to go ahead and bring up that slide so you guys know.
Nice.
Look, not 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock next Wednesday. Eastern Standard is me. 7 to 10 is Reuben. 10 to 1 a.m. #Erin after
Wait,
dark.
real quick. I have some more bits to thank for. Jay Chancellor gave us 100 bits. Thank you for interrupting Evan's joke.
We appreciate that. In 1 week's time, the early access streamer event will be in full swing. #sponsored. And that means that next week we will not have our regular show. Instead, we will have 9 hours of fresh from the Witch's Oven gameplay. Now, Theros Beyond Death is already Theros beyond any grave cleric could possibly ask for. But tell me, we have a few short days of official previews left. But Standard hasn't been perfect, and I, for one, think we could use an apology. So tell me, before we move into the brave new world of the Underworld, what amends would you like made, Erin?
Well, between Escape and Constellation, this is already Erin Campbell the set, and Standard seems like it could be okay. So for my wish, all I want is a good tongue lashing for their unfair treatment of Bridge from Below paying for Hogak's sins, while Oko inexplicably walks free, because really, how dare you?
It's true.
I can't have Golgari Grave Troll, but you can make a beast within on a stick?
It's
Fairly inexcusable.
Disrespect.
It's pretty bad, not gonna lie. Reuben?
Well, we got #Justice for Ferocidon, and that was a good start. But Mono Red hasn't been a force for balance in a long time, so I would really like a firm handshake and maybe, just maybe, a couple playable 1-drops for Mono
Or hell,
Red.
just give white balance.
Right.
Bring balance
That's
back.
fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. It's
Bring
fine.
balance
It's
back to the
whatever.
force.
I know, right? Look, there is one card I think has not seen the amount of play over the last several months, really over the last year or so, that I had hoped. One card that remains unavenged. So before we brave the new world of Theros, all I need is 4 little words. I'm sorry, Basic Planes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's been a while since I've seen a Basic Planes in a sleeve.
Gosh, I mean, even as I just love the top X played cards are always 4 lands that aren't planes.
And then Breeding
Fabled
Pool.
Passage.
Yeah.
Yeah, then Breeding Pool and Fabled Passage.
Yep.
And you're like, okay, all right, that's where we're at. And that's also where we end another live episode of Magic Mics. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you for having me, and join us next week. It's going to be a hoot.
A hooty cadoodle. Reuben, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Although I'm not sure that I'm going to continue joining the show as it is. I don't want to suffer from burnout. And I might want to go to greener pastures elsewhere and maybe take a vacation or a nice cruise. You know, spend some time to myself and my Hearthstones. And
away from us.
And far
You can't go on a
away,
cruise ship. They ain't got Wi-Fi.
Far away from all of these awful, awful Magic the Gathering cards that I definitely hate. No, I'm kidding. Don't.
Move to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsor, CardHoarder.com, my co-hosts, Erin Campbell and Reuben Bressler, you guys for watching or listening, and hope you support us at Patreon.com/MagicMics. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online on our Discord, twitch.tv at Magic Mics, on Twitter at Magic Mics Cast, our Magic Mics subreddit, and like the Magic Mics page on Facebook. Talk to us privately at MagicMicsPodcast@gmail.com. Follow the audio-only podcast at MagicMicsPodcast.libsyn.com, or find us on iTunes or Spotify, or join us here next week. Same time, same place. Well, next week, all day next week. Same time, same place for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.
That was really good, Evan.
Thank you.
Same time next. Well, not same time. Same time.
All right,
though.
shut up. Okay, that's where we were. All right, now we're rating.
Same time next week.